everyone, welcome. This is Stoke the Fire. You can find out more about us on stokethefire.guru. We're two women who bring you excellent content to manage your week. And how do we do that? Well, I'm Pamela Cuccinell. I'm an astrologer, and I will give you a forecast, an energy forecast for the week that is designed based on looking at the astrology so that you can maximize your efforts and get the best return for what you put out there. You can find out more about what we do at stokethefire.guru, and the we in Stoke the Fire is me, Pamela Cuccinell, and Susie. Susie, say hi.
Hi everyone, I'm Susie Mazzoli and I am the other side of Stoke the Fire, and I work as a spiritual healer and teacher, and also as a professional homeopath, and I have the Art of Energetic Healing School here in New York and also online. And I work also privately with clients, working with all sorts of physical, emotional, mental and spiritual energetic issues. And at the end of Pam does 20 minutes of astrology, which I recommend if you haven't seen us before, that you pick up your address book, not your address book, your date book, and take notes during the 20 minutes of forecast, because it's very helpful to know what's going on for the week and how you can navigate what's going on, and how you can use this information to plan your day the best. Also what to look out for and what you can really perhaps start something or do something on that day. And then after that, I come in and do 10 minutes of what we call a channeled meditation, which is more or less a powerful activation meditation, which is based on the information that we receive from the astrology. So if you're new, welcome to Stoke the Fire. And if you're one of the team that's been with us for many, many years, we're very happy to have you again with us on this week of the first week of November 2017.
Right, exactly. And as Susie said, we've been doing this for years. We started out just doing it as a podcast, and now we've been doing YouTube for several months now. And the YouTube version is the longer version, where we talk a lot about what we do, how you can find out more about us on stokethefire.guru. And also that's the place where, if you don't want to hear all about us because you know all about us, but you just want to get the encapsulated essence of the astrology forecast and the channeled meditation delivered to your inbox on Sunday, then you can sign up for that at stokethefire.guru. We have two ways you can sign up. One is you try 6 weeks for half price, see if it's a fit for you. And then the other is you can sign up for a year and get a free consultation with either Susie or myself, which is an absolutely fabulous deal. So let's get to the astrology piece of it so that you know what's going on for the week coming up. As Susie said, this is the first week in November. It's November 6th, 2017. And the thing about November 6th, 2017 is that the moon is in the sign of Gemini as I'm speaking. So we are in the waning moon period. The full moon was this past weekend. The moon is waning. So that has other meaning to it. You can find out more by looking at my Phases of the Moon piece on my website, or just to briefly tell you, when the moon is waning, our energy is more about integrating, finishing things up. It's not that you can't launch something or begin something fresh, but it's good to keep in mind the energetic weather of that specific day, because when the moon is waning, it's like the fish going against the current. So you want to choose a time when it's really got the most impact to sort of boost you along, even though a lot of the current is a little bit against you. So that being said, today, November 6th, moon in the sign of Gemini. For our folks who get it Sunday night, this has been a good day to be pushing things forward, to be making phone calls, following up on email, doing all the things that help you with what is it you want to make happen. Really, really dynamite for finishing up tasks, for doing things already in motion. A little more work if you're doing something brand new, brand spanking new, but nonetheless, still an overall good day. Keep in mind that as we get to the evening time, there may be feeling a bit of friction. You may confront some sort of authority that things aren't going quite the way you would like, or you may also hit a little kind of conflict because perhaps you've made a commitment or have a responsibility that isn't in line with the overall thrust of where you want things to go. So we have to tailor whatever it is we're doing so that we meet our responsibilities, or kowtow to the authority that we have to kowtow to, and do what's necessary, because the most important thing is the eye on the long-term goal, whatever that may be, even if the long term is the short term, like I want to get home safely, and my friend who is the designated driver is that on their third glass of wine and I'm not feeling too comfortable about that. So how do you claim your authority? Say, hey, you know what? I can drive myself home, or I can call my mom, or I can figure out, or I can sleep on the couch, but whatever's necessary to claim your authority so that you're not feeling as though you're compromising in a very uncomfortable way. And that passes by late evening, and then we get inspired thought and are able to move with much greater alacrity towards whatever it is we want to achieve. It's almost like everything opens up. The road opens up, the way is clear. The cute guy in the room says, hey, I'll give you a ride home, and he's just been drinking tea. But anyway, it's something happens that just makes all that kind of fall into place. So get over the hump. The hump passes at by 10 p.m. that evening, and then we're in time of inspired thought. The thing is, when I give time, or I'm even giving date, keep in mind that Susie and I record this Eastern time zone, so make adjustments wherever you are on the planet. So on the 7th, November 7th, it's election day in the United States. Election day, depending on where you live, may be fraught with somewhat anxiety, because the United States is very, like many countries actually at this point in time, a lot of turmoil as to who's in power, who's running the show, because with the big outer planets moving very slowly in these geometric configurations, we have been seeing major changes and shifts pretty much since the second millennium, but especially since 2008 through 2015. And so we are in the processing mode of how this all falls out and what effect it has on all of us. So days like Election Day, or when things are particularly buzzed in the news, will bring people into frames of maybe higher anxiety. The good news is that Moon goes void of course at 5:39 a.m. in the sign of Gemini, and it's very briefly void of course. So I'll talk more about void of course when we have a longer void later in the call. But at 5:44 a.m., the moon enters the sign of Cancer. Now, the reason I said that's the good news is because Gemini by nature spins wheels, gathers information, gossip mongering, also just one thought to the other to the other. So if it had been a long void of course period, it would have represented a lot of confusion. So what we see instead is that the moon has moved in the sign of Cancer. Cancer being a water sign, cardinal, it initiates, it wants to start something. So the good part about that is that people will be very much in the feeling place, which I think is how a lot of people vote, but they'll be in the feeling place of what they hold most near and dear to them. The hard part about this is it's going to continue to crystallize the major differences in especially the United States, since this is an election day. It's not an election day for the president, but it's still a very important election day depending on the resident or district you live in. So if you're a person who usually only votes for the president, if you are a person who votes, if you are a US citizen, then educate yourself, see what's going on now, because it's the near and dear, the things that are most important to you. And it's really important that people express that, because that will, as I said, continue to give form and shape to what people really declare and feel the most important. Now, if you're not a voter, or you're not voting, or it doesn't really matter, or you're not in the United States, or we're not even talking about the election, then this is still a day that's really kind of high threshold for people getting upset or tipping into argument or declaring how they feel about something, frustration level very high. That's why it's important to give yourself time, whatever it may be that you have to do, to have a full stomach. So you don't want to vote or run an errand or have an important discussion when you're hungry. Really bad idea on November 7th. Make sure you have the food you need in your tummy and that you are focused on whatever the discussion is, because as I said, emotions can run very high. We see the apex of that as we get to the late evening. Once that passes, then people's ability to be rational returns somewhat. But it's not necessarily a bad thing when people express emotions, anger, frustration. It's important to know that's what you're feeling, or the grievances are where they're at. What matters most, though, is that you're able to convey those ideas in a way that really is heard. And so the message is disseminated and arrives, and it doesn't sort of blurt out or attack and upset the ability to really understand the other person or people in the room. So the other thing to mention about today, November 7th, it's not today, but to mention about November 7th is that Venus enters the sign of Scorpio. Venus goes through her stint of a few weeks being in the sign of secrets, sexuality, mystery. And so for people who really enjoy that kind of more deeper way of relating, I'm not just talking sexual, I'm talking about any way that we really merge and confide, which actually for most people, the biggest confidences tend to be financial more than sexual. But this is a really excellent time over the next few weeks to explore things that maybe go beyond your usual comfort zone. And if this is an area of life that you are usually comfortable in delving into therapeutically and deeply, this can be a very rich time. So November 8th, which is Wednesday, November 8th, the moon is still in the sign of Cancer. But we've moved past that kind of what I would almost call a temper tantrum period that may have occurred on Tuesday. And we enter into a time when really we're in the game of chess. So we're in real, we're not talking about just blowing up or a moment of temper. We're talking about real strategic. How do I express my need for power and domination? And depending on who you are, or if this is a place where you usually live, it may or may not express itself exactly like that to you, but you may feel as though someone is trying to really throw their weight in the room or do something that makes you feel like, wait a minute, I'm not really feeling like I'm able to express or be myself or declare what I want, because someone else really has this very serious agenda. Now, this may affect you directly depending on your personal horoscope, especially if you're a Cancer, Aries, Libra, or Capricorn, or you may, however, see it peripheral to you. You may witness as something that comes up in the news. But what it feels like is it feels like someone is trying to take ownership. And so that can be ideally something that is negotiated so that all parties benefit. But if it does feel like someone is imposing onto another, it basically is causing a great deal of friction that can push out. Now, one reason this is occurring, and we'll see it cyclically. So I'm just talking about 1 week, but we see this come up again and again as a theme throughout the year and into 2018. And one reason we're going to be seeing it as a theme is because I mentioned the outer planets earlier. Pluto is in Capricorn, sort of in the middle of its travel through the 30 degrees of Capricorn. Uranus is moving at the last degrees, the last 10 degrees, decanate we call it, moving through the last decan of Aries. So it's no longer Aries, Capricorn in direct tension with one another. But when the moon kind of travels through this minefield, first she goes into a relationship with Pluto, if the moon is in a cardinal sign, Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn. And then she confronts or comes into a hard aspect with Uranus. Now, Uranus is the more volatile of the two planets. So it's basically whatever happens spontaneously, almost as a surprise. So you could find, if you're up late on Wednesday night, moving into early past midnight on Thursday, you could find something suddenly comes through your email or on your computer, or there's a message on the news. Something happens that pulls attention and shifts the landscape. So, which may, as I said, directly or indirectly affect you, depending on how it manifests. So at 7:29, at just after midnight, 12:14 a.m. Thursday morning, the moon has gone void of course. And it's void of course until 7:29 a.m. when it moves into the sign of Leo, Leo. So in that period of time, which you may be sleeping through, or you may be a night owl, or you may be an early riser, when the moon is void of course, it is not making any geometric aspects to another planet. So there's kind of a lack of investment to what the outcome is. So we say that you don't usually do something or make a preemptive move unless it's something that you just don't really want to have pan out, that you just assume nobody really paid attention to it, because there's no emotional charge when the moon is void of course. And so in the sign of Cancer, it tends to be a time when we want to be home, we want to nest, we want to eat something good, we want to do something that makes us feel cozy or safe. So those are the things that are kind of thematic until 7:29 a.m. The morning of November 9th. So it may be a little hard to get out of the house if you're kind of a slow mover anyway. But at 7:29 a.m., when the moon enters the sign of Leo, it's like the lights go on. Things really start to move. Leo is a fire sign. It's very dynamic. It wants to create things. It moves in ways that are engaged. Leo wants an audience. It will do what's necessary to follow through with whatever is started. So this day has a lot of real, what I would call engine power behind it. There can be a little discomfort around noon where I want to do this, but I need to do that. And depending on your horoscope, you may feel this acutely, or you may be working with someone who feels this acutely. Compromise is the best solution, or just wait until it passes. By 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time, that discomfort probably will pass, and we'll move into a period where there's more ability to communicate, share ideas, and think about options. So things start to move very, very quickly. The uh, the negative, or the potential pitfall about this day into Friday is that too much of a good thing. Too many choices, too many opportunities, too much going on. And the more you winnow your focus, especially on Thursday into into Thursday evening, the more you're going to feel like you really are tightening up and achieving something really, really nice. On Friday, the 10th, we are moving quickly, especially for anyone who knows exactly what they want to do and how they want to do it. They are taking responsibility. They have made commitments to the people who are the movers and shakers. They know who they're getting in touch with to make the thing really roll out, and it does. It moves with a speed that is very satisfying and very engaged. This can be an excellent period to finish up tasks as we're moving again with that nice waning moon cycle. So we've got a lot of momentum to get the thing off the ground, whatever it may be. November 11th, known as Veterans Day in the United States, the moon goes void, of course, at 3:55 a.m., so the wee hours in the morning. And it stays void, of course, until late morning, when it goes into the sign of Virgo at 11:41 a.m. So that morning can feel very, it can be a good morning for play, for doing things that basically recognize or honor, for people who do honor or respect, or have a veteran, or want to make a honoring moment towards people who have served in the military. Once The other thing to keep in mind is that any rhetoric or anything that is said on the morning of Saturday probably isn't going to stick. So even though it might have a posturing or a message that is delivered with it, it's not going to go anywhere. Nothing is really going to have any staying power until we get to 11:41 a.m. And then when the moon moves into the sign of Virgo, we're in a place where there's a lot more glue for what is said. I see the afternoon of this Saturday, the 11th, as being a time when actually a lot of healing can take place, but also a lot of expression against statements of what has always been assumed. So I'm not saying it's directly political at all. I mean, this can or cannot be political or a media thing or something that is a device that is used at this time when it is a holiday for honoring U.S. military. That's what it is. Depending on where you are in the world, it may or may not be a period where you feel that, but it, one way or the other, especially as we get in the later part of the day, evening, it can be very expressive as to, let's care most about what is the service, the healing, the peace that is going to make a difference and an impact in a way that may shift and change how things have always been viewed. So It can be a discussion you have with a family member, a business conversation, a client. Again, it doesn't have to have anything to do with Veterans Day, but it does have to do with, is this serving you? We are doing something in a certain frame and technique, which may or may not be doing the service we want to render. So this holds through the 12th on Sunday. And on Monday, when I'll talk again, the moon goes void, of course, at 10:45 in the sign of Virgo. So Sunday may be a day where the thing that is going to be most gratifying is to do service and to do things that really hold with what the high ideal is, not necessarily what you think you should do or what has been imposed on you to be what you should do. So this requires a little tension, but in the end, ask your heart, how can I really serve? Okay, Susie, I turn it over to you.
Ask your heart how you can really serve.
Yes, what feels like you really are doing service, not only to yourself, not only to the people in your life or who you love, but a lot of times, I mean, I'm sure you get it too. I have people who talk to me about wanting to fulfill their purpose or do what they should be doing. And sometimes the answer is closer than we think because we're trying to analyze and figure it out. And really, when you just come into your heart and body and ask yourself, is this really serving? The answer is closer than you think.
Okay, so let's jump into our meditation and let's see what comes up. For those of you that are new, I've worked for most of my life as an energetic channel with the master teachers, and so a lot of this information is not me. It's the master teachers who are, I think, quite profound and quite wise, of course. And so they basically bounce off this information. So what I'll do is I'm just going to close my eyes and I invite you to do the same. And we will go into doing a meditation together. Dear loved ones, as we invite you now to go deep into meditation with us for a short 10 minutes, but understand that 10 minutes of this type of meditation and activation can in fact really alter or enhance or let's say boost your energy systems by this way affecting you physically, mentally, of course, emotionally, as well as spiritually and of course energetically. This work is energetic work. So the words we are speaking are, of course, going into your consciousness and you are thinking about them and they might be making sense to you. But really what we're doing is we are working together energetically. And as we're working, it's always fun to fill your ears with some words, with some ideas, with some encouragement, with some, yes, we think this is a wonderful word, encouragement, that you feel the encouragement of this life, of you individually. So we will talk about this idea of being in service and going into your heart. And we understand that a lot of people struggle between what they think in their head and what they think in their heart. But really, you could understand that your head really is in your heart, that even now your science is saying quite clearly that the heart is full of what you would call, let us call them the intelligent cells, those cells that are also like a brain, and that you absolutely can analyze and process and make decisions from your heart as well. But what is this idea that you have a difference between the heart and the brain? what is this dichotomy? Is it two different ways of thinking or two different ways of feeling, or is one more thinking and is one more feeling? Is the heart more in tune with what you call unconditional love and the head more in tune with what I've experienced and what I've analysed and what I've processed? We see in most cases, and let us make clear that this is a general statement, we see in most cases when people refer to this difference between the heart and the head, what we see is that the head is something that is contained, let us say, within that field of survival thinking. I am alive, and within a certain amount of time, I will be dead, because that is the cycle of life, and I will die in numerous possible ways, but my death is more or less ensured because I'm alive now. This is a very basic concept of life and death, and this is coming more or less from what we call the reptilian brain, or the survival mechanism of the brain. Whereas what we see is when people speak more about coming from the heart, is that the heart is more in touch with the what we call the effervescence of life, and also the eternity of life, that really life itself is something that is ongoing, that it is unlimited. And you might refer to reincarnation, or you might refer to other lifetimes or parallel lifetimes. But even the scientists will agree with you that energy itself is literally something that may form, transform, come into other forms, but itself, it's not ending. Energy is not ending at all. It simply mutates, transmutes, transforms into other types of energy, into other types of formats. So if we say that this is what we see when humans are speaking about the difference between heart and head, is the heart believes that life is unlimited and eternal, and the human brain believes that biological life is in itself cyclic and has an end. And this, yes, we agree to. Absolutely, we agree to. We agree to this understanding of biology. Let us take this into another realm. Let us take it into the realm of, first let us increase the frequencies, and let us feel the extension of energy, that we are able to take energy and make it bigger, spread it out, amplify it. In this way we can also diversify it. And just feel yourself just opening up the energy field. And if you imagine that there is this energy in the heart and this energy in the head, and let's say that the gateway between the two is at the throat, just for example, let us now open the gateway. Let it be a floodway. Let it move in both directions, so the heart can go flooding up to the head, and the head can go flooding down to the heart. And now the two are mixing together, so that there is, for example, no distinction between head and heart. That these two are one of the same. And there is a melding. And in this melding comes a great openness. There comes a very perceptive intelligence, and at the same time, a great opening of love, making each one of us, making each and every single person vastly intelligent, tremendously smart, and at the same time full of love. So just feel this energy. It's a wonderful little exercise to play with. We invite you to try it. Just feel that shifting of energy, and allow this to be perhaps an exercise that you use on many different ways, in many different ways in your life, because so much of this world, as you perceive it and you see it, is in duality. It's this or it's that. It's right or wrong. It's black or white, etc., etc., etc. This world of duality is where so much richness can be brought into the spirit. It is through living through this duality that you are able to come to what we would call higher understandings or deeper understandings of life. And what happens when you mix the two things together? What happens when you mix right with left? What happens when you come into not the middle necessarily, but truly a combined force of right and left? And just play with this. Just play with this energetically. Play with this in your mind. Play with this in your heart and your head, of bringing things together. So when you find that you are absolutely diametrically opposed to something, like there is just no way, what is it like when you put on the boots of that no way? What is it is when you just put yourself in a different role and engage in what you are so opposed to. And we understand that your life is so much about streamlining and really getting very clear about what you are and what your ideas are and what you want and what you need and what you think is absolutely right and what you think is absolutely wrong. But just for a time being, just play with this idea of what is it if I am like this? What is it if I am like that? So choose something that you might be very, very much in opposition to, and just try on that coat just for a few minutes, just for a few days. Just try it on to see what it feels like to be in someone else's shoes or to think differently. And as we do this, it doesn't mean that we are becoming immoral or stepping away from our own opinions. It just means that we're learning a little bit more about someone else. It means that we're learning a little bit more about something else. And a great way to start to do this is by dropping the brain into the heart and taking the heart up into the brain and letting them have a dance, letting them have a fancy tango dance. And just feel this energy now as it allows for opening, as it allows for a coming together, as it allows for space, for more space. And this space brings compassion, and this space brings non-judgment. And this space brings also fearlessness. And as you're feeling this energy just rising up in your body, it feels quite natural. Because you really are absolutely everything. And you really are all ideas, all concepts, all realities, everything all at once, all potentials, all awareness always. So taking a few deeper breaths and feeling that openness. Whoosh.
You're back.
I'm back.
So wonderful. Okay, I'm back too. So that's what we do with Stoke the Fire, and you can find out more on stokethefire.guru. You can find out how to subscribe and get the astrology forecast and then what Susie brings and her master teachers. And you can get that Sunday by subscription, stokethefire.guru, or you can continue to watch us at Facebook. Not Facebook. Well, actually, we are, you can find us on Facebook. You can get the YouTube posts that way. We have a Stoke the Fire Facebook page. So I am Pamela Cuccinell. My personal business website is insightoasis.com. And there you can find out about how I work with individuals through astrology to help them make their lives work more in flow. A lot of clients find it very useful to know what's ahead as they're planning their business decisions or travel or other things like that. I have different packages, different ways you can work with me. Shoot me an email, Pamela@insightoasis.com. And Susie, why don't you tell them what you do?
And you can find me, Susie Mazzoli, at susiemazzoli-healer.com if you would like to work with me privately for any health or emotional or spiritual guidance. And if you are interested to study energetic healing, the Art of Energy Healing School has a new course starting in January next year. And you can reach the school at energyhealingschoolny.com. And there's a little interview process, and we have small classes, usually about 10, 12 people, and we meet one day a month. And during that day, we study theory, we do practical work, we do some activations, and we also, throughout the year, get the 3 Reiki attunements. And we also talk about the chakra system, crystals, sound healing, and it's really a year of spiritual development for a lot of people, as well as learning how to be a healer. So if you'd like to join us, you can join us also through online school or in person in New York City, and also next year in Stone Ridge, New York, for anyone that's living upstate. So that's how to reach me, and I hope that you all have enjoyed this week's program, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Find us at stokethefire.guru. Bye now.